Peace and blessings, everyone. It's your favorite true seeker and teller again. And I want to talk about something unexpected. First and foremost, my platform is about men's mental health and how many of us suffer in silence every day. Um, out of, which comes from many different aspects. Some may be fear of being ridiculed for having mental health issues. Others may be, we're taught to internalize. Others are, you know, this is just what we do. As men, we don't really deal with our feelings. But today's message is about how me actually making these videos over the past few days has actually helped me with my mental health. Because I've had some struggles. I'm still struggling. I find a way to pick myself up and get up and just do it again every day. And I've had struggles because, as I've expressed before, I'm isolated. I don't have anyone. I'm just alone. And so it's like when I get up and I leave my house and I go to work and I see my clients, or I go to the food store, to the doctors. I'm alone. There's no one with me. With my orthopedic issues, oftentimes I may go to doctor's appointments, and I need a wheelchair at times because I can't walk for a far distance. And I'll ask the staff. I say, "Hey, could you help and push me to where I'm supposed to go with my appointment?" And they'll complain like, "Oh, why don't you have somebody to come with you?" And I have to tell them I don't have anyone. I remember when I had my hip replacements, both times. With my insurance didn't want to pay for me to go to a rehab hospital, which is just really crazy because in this country, if you have Medicaid, which is the free, it's the insurance that you get from the state when you have low income, then basically they pay for more than Medicare, which is something that you actually pay for. And the Medicare doesn't want to pay for you to go to rehab hospital. So their option is for you to go home. But I had to tell them, say, "Hey, look, I'm going home to nothing, to no one. I'm basically going to be going home on a walker with no help. And it's going to be dangerous for me because if I fall or anything may happen, I'm just going to be really in a lot of trouble." And so, I'm isolated. And it's been like this for several years for me. I can remember when my daughter was alive several years ago. This had to be 2012, 2013. And my thing was, I would go to work every day and I would come home. And when I came home, I would pick up my daughter. And that was my day. I held her all day. And one of the days I wasn't working, I was holding her. And we had a tendency, even if we just woke up, she was so confident in me and I was so confident in her that when I was holding her, we would both fall asleep. And I guess while I was in my sleep, I was just thinking about dreaming about how isolated I was. And I woke up and I just said out loud, I said, something's got to change. I can't keep on being isolated like this. And my daughter's nurse was like, "Yeah, you're right. Something hasn't changed because you're always isolated." That was 13 years ago and nothing has changed. So oftentimes I feel very isolated. You know, I try to open up to people. And the funny thing about it is, like, I'm open up to perfect strangers at times. And I'll say to myself, I say, "Wise, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that." Because, people will use your pain against you as a tool. Um, and so what happens is it makes you feel invisible. It makes you feel like, well, it made me feel like, no one really cared about what I was going through, and that the suffering I was going through was just a part of my life. That's what I was going to be. I was going to suffer, and no one would really take the time to really, just understand. I didn't really want anything from anybody. I didn't want anybody to pay for anything or just spend all their time with me sitting here, while I'm disabled. I just wanted, someone to come by, every now and then and say, hey, man, I was coming to check on you. Say, how you doing? Or pick up the phone every now and then, which I do get phone calls every now and then. I had a friend call me today. That was the first time I talked to him in about a year, but you take what you can get, you know. But it's been a struggle, and making these videos, it's actually been, I've noticed that after I make these videos and just kind of like get things off my chest, it's helped me a lot. I actually feel better after I do because, especially a lot of the times on the weekends, when my daughter's little brother doesn't come over and I'm just sitting here isolated from the week before when I saw my client. So it's like 3 days before I had speak to or talk to anyone outside of maybe when I go into the food store. And it's constantly on my mind. And everyone says, live in the moment, live in the moment, live in the moment. Well, what do you do when living in the moment is just isolation, which is really what is bothering you in the first place? Even with all my severe health issues, the isolation, the pain from isolation has been worse. The pain for the loneliness has been worse. Because I see, people, sometimes people go through these things. Sometimes people go through life and they have, debilitating issues, health issues. And I'm not saying, oh, woe is me because I have these health issues. I'm just devastated at times by the fact that I don't have anyone. That if I'm going to a low point, that I just go to a low point, and I have to figure out a way to pull myself out each and every single time. And I have pulled myself out each and every single time. I pull myself out each and every single time. And then the crazy thing about it also is I can remember coming up, I had two situations where two people that I knew that were on the brink of suicide. And these weren't people that I really, one of them was a person I talked to often, but the other one was really a person I talked to that often. Matter of fact, I don't think I really talked to them at all. Like on the phone, like I saw them in school and stuff like that, but I didn't really talk to them on the phone, or like we weren't really friends like that. But I found out that they were having these problems, and I just picked up the phone and I called them and I talked them down. Two people. I really talked these people down from a point to where they didn't want to be here anymore. And then when I go through my mental struggles and I pick up the phone, I try to call people, and a lot of times it happens when I'm drinking because I told myself that I'm not going to call people anymore. I told myself I'm calling these people, I'm calling these people, I'm calling these people, and there's no reciprocation or reciprocity. The only time that we talk is when I reach out, and I'm like, to me, that's just like, you're not valuing our bond the way that I value it. So I said, I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to do it. But a lot of times after I've been sitting down drinking, I'm so lonely and I'm so alone. I said, man, let me call this person, man. Let's see. Sometimes I just want to chop it up. Sometimes I'm just so isolated and alone that I have to talk. I have to say something. And I've been called things like, "Oh, you're a bumbling idiot when you've been drinking," or maybe I am. But it's a cry for help. And I've cried for help so many times, and I got the bare bones minimal from people. And I'm not saying this to get on my soapbox and to try and, oh, woe is me. I'm saying to say that as men, and people that deal or have any dealings with men, just be present there a little bit more for us. It goes such a long way. It goes such a long way. There was a young lady that I didn't really know her when I was in school. She was younger than me. So we weren't in school together, but I know her older brother, and her older brother's older than me. I didn't even know that she was his sister. And so she would see me on Facebook, and she say, hey, I live in the area. I said, I'm going to come by and visit you, and she used to come by and visit me, and that meant so much to me because that's something that nobody really did. And I remember my grandmother and my uncle and my aunt, when they had gotten older, in my hometown, like I knew they were alone too, but they had the grandkids would come visit them, their children would come visit them. Family was by there coming to see them and checking on them and seeing how they were doing. I don't have that. I don't have that. So just me getting up here speaking to you and saying my piece has been a huge help for the short period of time. It's almost like how I feel when I leave my therapist and I get stuff off my chest. So it's been a huge help, and I want to thank those of you who have took the time out to watch my videos thus far. I hope that you could get something from it. If you have a man in your life, just tell them that you appreciate them, and it doesn't have to be your a father or significant other or just a man that you appreciate. Just tell them that you appreciate him. Because going through every Father's Day, like I've gone through without getting a Father's Day gift, just a few, just no recognition of all the sacrifices I've made. It's hard, So I'm advocating for men. I'm advocating for everybody's mental health, but I'm really advocating for men because, especially black men, because we seem to be the ones that go ignored the most. And I don't want to overwhelm everybody tonight. So hopefully you found some value in my video. And if you have, please take the time to like, share, and subscribe. And say hello under the video. Maybe we could get some time and we could do some things. We could talk some more, candidly through my platform or through your platform. I just want to talk about these things. I find them very interesting, first and foremost, and it's helpful. So then again, I say peace and blessings. It's wise. Salute. Love you all.